Hey everyone, welcome back to the Pen Habit. I'm Matt, and today we're going to be talking about this itty bitty little pen. So, this is another one of my vintage finds. Found this in an antique store in Renton, Washington. And this is a 1929, I think, Parker Lady Duofold Lucky Curve. This is an old pen, and I found it quite by mistake at an antique store. I went to 6 or 7 antique stores in a row. This is the only pen they had in stock, and I bought it for 20, 25 bucks, something like that. Um, Needed a little bit of work, so I took it apart and replaced the ink sac. I still need to polish it up and just clean it up a little tiny bit. But in general, I was pretty pleased with this purchase. It's a nice little pen. So let me kind of give you some of the details here. Just adjust this slightly. Okay, so this is a ring top pen. It's the only pen I've ever owned that is a ring top, and I suspect that was hook it onto a necklace so you could carry it around with you. I don't know. I've never actually seen one in use that way. The pen does have some micro scratches on it. It's here and there. It's kind of to be expected for a pen this old and that hasn't been cleaned up very much. Um, the pen is a button filler pen. So the end here comes off. And for those who aren't familiar with button filler pens, essentially what that is you press the button. There we go. So you press this button in, and inside the pen, let me grab another pen here and kind of walk you through what's happening inside. Inside the pen, you've got your ink. So here's the top of the pen, and you've got your ink sac. And you've got this rod that kind of runs down along the side of the pen, and then you've got your button here on the top. Well, when you press the button down, that causes the pen to flex, or it causes the pen to push this rod, which has a little flat spot on it. It flexes this rod, pushes the ink sac over, creates a vacuum. So it's basically the same physical principle as what's happening in a lever fill pen, but it's the pressure's coming from the top, not from the side. I have not come across a lot of button fillers. I know there are still some out there. This is not one that I am familiar. This is not a filling mechanism I've had a lot of experience with, but it seems to work well enough. It's that same problem where you have to have the parts. So if the rod on the inside breaks, or if the ink sac needs replacing, there really aren't people around easily to do these repairs anymore, and most people didn't do their own repairs. So the pen is in mandarin yellow is the color, and this is one of the first years that Parker did these bright yellow pens. Before that, they were black or red. Those were the big colors, and they tried doing this experiment with these red or this yellow pen, and they didn't sell well. So these older pens in mandarin yellow are actually pretty hard to come by, especially with good color. Now you can see there's a little bit of fading here, and you may not be able to see it on the video, but you will on the photos. Where the cap was, there's been a little bit of fading in the yellow, but it's actually pretty good coloring. The imprint says Lady Duofold, GEOS Parker, Janesville, Wisconsin, fountain pen, USA patent 42511. And then there it says Lady Duofold Lucky Curve. So this is a really, really small pen. It's a really small pen, almost to the point of being completely unusable for me. So in terms of length, we are looking at 111 millimeters capped. 111, that's really short. And uncapped, we're looking at 105 exactly. Obviously, you're probably going to want to post this. Now, I have to be careful posting this pen because there is a little tiny hairline crack right on the edge of the cap on this pen that I need to figure out how to repair. I've heard you can fill it with super glue and then buff it out. I need to do more research on that. So in any case, we are looking here at capped or posted. We're looking at 145 millimeters. So when you're writing, you almost have to use it posted. Otherwise, it's just so small. I mean, it barely makes it past the opening of my hand. And if you want to hold it higher, it doesn't really work at all. Um, in terms of weight, obviously, because this is a lighter pen and because it's made of plastic, uh, it's really light. It's 8 grams without the cap and only 12 with the cap. So it's a very, very light pen. And this mandarin yellow, like I said, it's a very vibrant color. You don't find a lot of pens this old in colors like this. They just didn't make them like that. All right. Well, let's go ahead and do a little bit of writing, see how this goes. So we are looking at the it's called Lucky Curve. And we've got a 14 karat nib. My goodness. Let me post the pen because it's a little tricky to write with when it's that small. 14 karat gold nib. I would probably consider this nib to be an extra fine. Maybe a fine. It is quite fine, though, as you can see. The ink is Private Reserve. Electric DC Blue. Going to move that around just a bit. And the paper, as is always the case, is a Rhodia dot pad. 80 grams per square meters. Okay. So now let's just do a real quick bit of writing here. So for a nib that is as fine as this one, it actually writes pretty smoothly. What surprised me about this pen, and I don't know why it surprised me. I don't know much about these pens, but one of the things that did surprise me about the pen was how much this nib can handle in terms of flex. And I think this is a case of, because the home base position for this nib is so fine, when it flexes, even if it flexes up to a broad, it's just the differentiation in width that makes such an impression on me. Now, I will say that this nib flexes, but it doesn't flex easily. You have to apply a fair bit of pressure, and so you need to be careful when you're doing things like that. I probably would not flex right with this pen unless I was really wanting to get, kind of a copper plate effect. But for the most part, it's not something that I would not use this as a flex nib. But as you can see, you can get a fair bit of line variation here. So it it flexes quite a bit. Yeah, quite smooth. It for such a fine nib. I find on this pen though, it's just so small. This pen, even posted, the diameter of this pen is too narrow for me. This pen is too small for my hands, and it's not a pen. I like the way it looks. It's very interesting, especially the story behind the pen, and the Parker collectors are a pretty intense group. And they, I mean, this pen it's got a really strong imprint, which is something that collectors look at quite a bit. It writes well, it fills well. I had to replace the ink sac. I do need to do a little bit of cleanup to just hand polish off some of the micro scratches and things like that. But for the most part, this pen, it's a nice pen. It's a fine pen. It's just way too small for my hands. And so this is not a pen I'm going to keep. I found this pen in my collection, or I found this pen at an antique store. I did some restoration work. I will continue to do a little bit more restoration work on it. And then at some point I will list it for sale. Because it's, as much as I like this pen and as pretty as it is, I'm not a collector. I'm a pen user. And I have no desire or need to keep a pen in my collection that doesn't actually get used for writing, which this one couldn't for me. It's just too small. But all things considered, very interesting pen. I love the color. I love the history of it. I was very surprised by the flexibility of the nib. So I think that'll do it for this video. If you have any questions, as always, please ask them down below. Check me out on penhabit.com, Facebook, Google+, both of those you can just search for Penhabit. I'm on @Penhabit at Twitter, and I've got a Pinterest board as well. Thanks for watching. We'll see you here next time on the Pen Habit. Bye.